It began with a sentence whispered in a meeting no one expected to explode. "I cannot keep quiet about this anymore." That line, attributed to MKHWANAZI, set off one of the most heated political storms the country has seen in recent months. No warning, no easing in, just a sudden eruption of claims pointing straight toward Minister Mchunu, sending shockwaves through corridors where silence had always been the safest language. From that moment, everything that followed felt like the ground shifting beneath the political establishment. Tonight, we dive into the chain of events triggered the moment MKHWANAZI stepped forward, the details he said he uncovered, the reasons he claims he couldn't remain silent, and how all roads, in his telling, led him into conflict with Minister Mchunu. What unfolded next wasn't a complaint. It wasn't a memo. It wasn't even a heated internal dispute. It was a revelation that forced an entire department to freeze. The first question whispered around the country was simple. What pushed him to speak? According to people present, the tension had been simmering for weeks before the statement burst out. MKHWANAZI, known for his controlled tone, had reportedly been wrestling with what he described as a deep conflict of duty. When he finally broke his silence, he framed it not as a choice but as something he felt cornered by. The atmosphere, according to those familiar with the exchange, changed instantly. Inside the department, the initial reaction to the allegation wasn't loud. It was the opposite, a heavy, uncomfortable stillness. Some officials, speaking anonymously, said they sensed a shift long before anything was publicly known. They noticed private briefings becoming tighter, information becoming more controlled, and meetings becoming unusually formal. So when MKHWANAZI suddenly made his claim, it didn't feel random. It felt like the lid finally lifting on pressure that had been building silently and steadily. Picture the scene. A meeting meant for routine updates suddenly veers off course when a single sentence changes the entire tone. People leaned in. Phones stopped vibrating. Pens froze midair. The allegation MKHWANAZI raised, directed toward Minister Mchunu, wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. It was the kind of claim that, once spoken, couldn't be taken back, a statement with consequences already unfolding even before anyone fully processed it. A calm room had instantly turned into a political battlefield. According to those close to him, the turning point for MKHWANAZI wasn't a single incident. It was a buildup of moments, unanswered questions, internal decisions he reportedly disagreed with, and what he described as pressure that made silence impossible. He referenced past experiences that shaped his outlook, hinting at times he remained quiet when he believed he shouldn't have. This time, he chose the opposite path. And this decision placed him on a collision course with someone far more powerful. When two narratives collide and neither side backs down, the fallout becomes inevitable. As soon as the statement went public, two camps formed almost immediately. One side insisted MKHWANAZI was acting on principle. The other side questioned his timing, his motives, and his interpretation of internal matters. But the part that electrified the nation wasn't the allegation itself. It was how quickly Minister Mchunu's name became tied to it in public discourse. Suddenly, every conversation circled back to the same question. What exactly happened behind those doors? Asterisk, could the tension have been larger than both men? Some analysts believe the clash may have been growing long before the reveal. Small disagreements, internal frictions, and policy debates may have created a layered history between the two officials. So when the allegation dropped, it didn't land on empty ground. It landed on a structure already filled with cracks that widened instantly. People were no longer asking if there was tension. They were asking how long it had been brewing. Insiders later shared that internal warnings had been circulating for months, though not everyone interpreted them the same way. One senior staffer reportedly said, "The signs were there. You just needed to know what you were looking at." Another dismissed the idea entirely, saying people often exaggerate normal disagreements. But the divergence of views only fueled more curiosity. What exactly did MKHWANAZI believe he had stumbled upon? Imagine a senior official discovering something he believes demands immediate attention. Not next week. Not next month. Now. That urgency, according to people near the situation, is what pushed him to confront the matter directly rather than follow the slow, traditional internal pathways. He reportedly feared the issue would be diluted, delayed, or buried. And so he went straight to the source, a move that would ignite the spark, consuming everything afterward. At one point, MKHWANAZI is said to have shared a personal memory that reflected exactly how he was feeling. A moment early in his career when he stayed silent, while witnessing something he believed wasn't right. That silence, he reportedly said, stayed with him for years. This time, he wasn't willing to repeat the past. This internal conviction, true or not, is what he cites as the reason he pushed forward despite the risks. It was his breaking point. If you've followed the story this far, hit the like button so more viewers can follow this unfolding political confrontation. Every political storm has one overlooked detail that eventually becomes the center of everything. In this case, the detail was a document, routine, unremarkable, and handled daily by the department. But according to MKHWANAZI, the contents raised questions he couldn't ignore. Others argue that he misinterpreted it entirely. But whether misunderstanding or revelation, the moment he flagged it, the situation spiraled in directions no one expected. Why do allegations escalate only under certain circumstances? Some within the department say it wasn't the content alone that caused the blow-up. It was who the content seemed connected to. The moment Minister Mchunu's name became entangled in the narrative, even tangentially, the stakes changed instantly. Conversations became careful. Emails became shorter. Doors that were usually open quietly closed. Power dynamics aren't always loud. Sometimes they're hidden in the quiet tension between conflicting responsibilities. Experts observing the situation pointed out that clashes like this are rarely about a single event. They are about structural pressures, reputational stakes, and differing interpretations of what accountability looks like. As the story spread, analysts and commentators flooded the public space with speculation, trying to decode the deeper meaning behind the standoff. By then, the conflict had already become national conversation. Inside the department, the response wasn't uniform. Some believed MKHWANAZI may have overstepped. Others praised his boldness. But the conflicting reactions created an environment where no one knew which side would hold. Meetings grew tense. Small gestures became loaded with meaning, and the silence between officials began speaking louder than their words. The institution itself felt split. A memory resurfaced for one senior staff member, a moment from years ago when a similar internal dispute tore a department in half. The parallels, they said, were impossible to ignore. Just like back then, everyone wanted clarity, but no one wanted to be caught on the wrong side of the conflict. And when two influential figures take opposite stands, neutrality becomes almost impossible. As the clash intensified, its effects rippled outward. Across provinces, municipalities, and regional offices, people began choosing sides without fully understanding the root of the dispute. Rumors replaced facts. Interpretations replaced evidence. By the time the public got fragments of the story, it had already morphed into a dozen different versions. The situation was spreading faster than the facts. What happens when exposure meets resistance at the highest level? Pressure multiplies. Questions pile up, and every statement becomes a headline. MKHWANAZI's reveal, whether grounded in full accuracy or shaped by internal frustrations, threw him into a direct collision with Minister Mchunu's public image, something powerful, well-established, and built over many years of service. This collision created the shockwave the entire country was now feeling. Sometimes the reaction becomes bigger than the claim. Some analysts noted that even if the initial allegation had been handled quietly, the dramatic chain reaction that followed made containment impossible. Public curiosity took over. Political analysts jumped in. Commentators dissected every angle. And the more the story grew, the more the original statement became a wider debate about leadership, responsibility, and pressure. As the dust settled, the country found itself watching a political landscape forever altered by one moment of confrontation. The allegation, the counter-responses, the confusion, the interpretations, all of it merged into a single, defining chapter of internal turbulence. Whether future investigations will clarify the truth or deepen the questions remains unknown. But one thing is certain: the reveal created a ripple effect that may shape the department for years. What began as a quiet meeting turned into a nationwide debate, all sparked by a single statement MKHWANAZI felt compelled to voice. The path ahead remains uncertain, with both sides holding firm to their positions and the public watching closely. More revelations may come, or the matter may drift into silence. But whatever happens next, this confrontation has already carved its place into the country's political timeline. Stay ready, the next chapter may arrive without warning. This content is based on public allegations, disputes, and statements. Not professional advice. Consult a qualified expert as needed.